Chookas!
Hello, everybody. My name is James.
Hi, everybody. My name is Neil.
And it's Neil's turn to introduce.
Oh, lovely. Okay. We have a wonderful guest today. Her name is Nisrine Amine.
Hello.
How are you? Nice to
Great.
meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Thanks for coming on board.
Thank you for having me. Mm-hmm.
How did we meet?
How did we meet? Steve, well, you know my friend Steve.
Yeah.
Mariska, who was on the show recently.
Yeah.
Oh, excellent.
So Steve
okay.
came on.
Yes.
Steve on a couple of episodes ago, and you've been watching, and
Yes.
and then we connected on Instagram, which is great. Social media is great. A lot of us artists to meet up on Instagram. So thank you so much for coming on. And yeah, how you been?
Yeah, really good.
Yeah.
I'm excited. It's nice to talk about this stuff. I don't know what stuff. We haven't planned anything, but whatever's about to unravel.
Look, it's not really about anything. It's basically about we speak about individuals and see how you've been so far in your journey and everything, and any projects that you've got coming up.
And thankfully, you filled out the questionnaire that we sent. So we'll just post that online and we're done. But thank you for coming.
That's
So-
okay. Driving here, I thought, what's the point of me even coming since I filled out the questionnaire?
Yeah,
Like the nerd that I am, but you're welcome.
Nisrine was great. Well, she filled out the form that we sent. I sent to most guests to let them know the type of things we're going to talk about so they're comfortable. But she did the pleasure of filling it all out for us.
What was it like filling it out? Like, is it stuff that you think about, or is it stuff that you've never thought about before?
No, it's stuff that I think about for sure, that I've been asked before, but I love filling out questionnaires.
Oh, yeah.
Like before we were talking about the Enneagram and that
Oh,
whole
yeah.
Like I just love being asked questions.
Oh, yeah.
And no, I don't think from a narcissistic point of view necessarily, although you could debate that. But no, I don't know, it's just great to think about the way you think, right? And to reflect and stuff. That's a big part of my life generally, so...
And
Yeah.
you mentioned your Enneagram number 9.
Yes.
The what is it?
I think it's a harmonious peacemaker.
Harmonious peacemaker.
Yeah.
Well, me and Neil need that.
Oh, you need a piece, yeah, between the both of you. I'm the best person for that.
Great.
Yeah.
We'll have you on every episode.
Yeah.
What
Opposite
other?
side.
What else does that? Or how did that? When you first found that out,
Yeah.
were you like, oh yeah, that's 100%?
Oh,
me.
yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, why do I shift and shape and kind of, well, when I'm with different people, I tend to take on their characteristics and I always thought that was a bad thing because I thought, I don't know who I am. I don't have a strong sense of identity. But no, it's in fact because I want everyone to feel comfortable and peaceful, I suppose. So I feel I can take on people's personas and energies a bit, but that sometimes means that what I want is kind of put to the side because I want to ensure that everyone is good and at peace and having a good time. So I kind of maybe get off track with my own path, but I've learnt to be better with that.
Yeah.
And when did you get into acting?
When I was a wee child, when I was 3, 4. No, I'm joking. No, I mean, I've always performed and acted, but I proper got into it. So when I left school, typical migrant story, if you can't go off and do acting.
You're Lebanese?
Yeah, Lebanese background.
Yep.
So I went off and did a public relations degree. I did half of a commerce degree and left it because I hated it. And then a teaching degree. So I was a high school teacher for years.
Wow.
And then in the 4th year of this particular job at an all-girls school in Westmead, I was in a play. And from there, it just reignited the passion that I had for acting when I was in high school. And so then I just started my training. So
Wow.
it was from then, I suppose.
And what age were you when you came to Australia?
I was 3.5.
Oh, you little bub.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, but from what I've heard, I was super confident little kid. This Lebanese kid that knew like French and Arabic and English, and I was just putting everyone in their place when I came over here. I was such a little shit. I try to tap back into that confidence sometimes when I lose it, but yeah.
I can imagine it because like I work at a school as well, and I can see little ethnic girls and Middle Eastern girls and stuff, and you can see little attitude on there, man. They're walking around, they like boss everyone around and stuff. I know where this is going, but it's beautiful. Yeah. So you can speak French as well in Lebanon. They teach
do
French,
both. Yeah, because if you want to be high class in Lebanon, you have to speak a bit of French. So when you speak to like my cousins over there, they'll move between Arabic, French and English in one conversation.
Wow.
But I studied it actually, all of my electives when I was doing the shit commerce degree that I didn't want to do, I had all these extra electives and I chose to study French for those electives. So I learned it there. I can't really speak it that well because I don't practice it, but I can read. Like I can read it quite well. I just need to practice it more. I need to be around more French people.
Do you speak Arabic, Lebanese all the time?
No, with my dad I do, and with like older relatives. So in the house it was a bit of both. It was Arabic and English.
Was there ever a time where you sort of lost it?
The Arabic, the language?
Yeah.
Not really. It's always been consistent. I can't speak it that well, but I understand it. Like I can't understand the Arabic news, for example, because that's like a very formal Arabic. But I can speak enough to like hold conversations if I'm ever to go to Lebanon and stuff that I can manage.
Yeah. Because like I think like a lot of immigrant kids. I know I did. I lost my language, my mother tongue for a while. Yeah. I didn't speak much of it. Like I was always at school trying to, and my parents wanted me to speak English a lot. So
really,
yeah. So like I would go to school and speak English all the time and come home, and then obviously then only times I would really try and speak sentences of my mother tongue would be when I would speak to my grandparents or my uncle, auntie back in India. You know, so then you really like that. Only like. That understanding of how important that is comes like later on when you get to high school. Like, wait a minute, I got to learn my language again. You know.
So did you learn it? Has it come back?
Yeah, it's come back, but it's like it's one of the things. Like right now, obviously now, like in the theatre circles and film, everyone speaks English, and where I live right now, everyone speaks English. I'm not predominantly around Indians all the time, but when I am, it doesn't take me long. Yeah.
I think you just need enough of it. So if you ever saw an older relative, you can connect with them.
Yeah.
Right? You just need that much of it, I think.
But like even if you do go back, and we had this conversations a few times, that every time I do go back, they still know that I'm not from India.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's that thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you're not Indian enough, I imagine, when you're there, but you're not Aussie enough here, like it's just a whole thing.
It's a whole thing.
I've seen definitely that's something that I can relate to as well. Yeah. Did you find that growing up here in Australia, were you Lebanese enough for the Lebanese community and not Australian enough for the Australian community?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I still feel like that sometimes, but I've resolved it now. Like I find that that's okay now. And I see it as being actually a point of difference and quite cool that I can blend between both worlds. But growing up, like I came over here and all of my mum's side was here already. So I had older cousins who were really Aussified. But then on my dad's side, I had some relatives here and so they were a bit more on the Lebanese side, I suppose. So it was always, toggling back and forth between those two worlds. Yeah.
I'm wondering, like, because you've done so. I'm so surprised to hear that you kind of went back to training after doing all of this other training, because looking at your work, you're quite prolific, and I'm wondering, what do you think, being who you are and being on screen, being on stage, like, what kind of or is there a message or an idea that you want to show younger immigrant children when they come, that they can do what you're doing and fit in? Yeah,
I suppose it's exactly that. Because when I was in high school, like for example, I wanted to go to NIDA when I left, but there was no one I knew that would ever went to NIDA, so it was a big trailblazer thing to do. I didn't go to NIDA, like I didn't audition or anything for it. And so now I suppose it is that message to younger people that there are avenues, and just if there's a niggling thing that just keeps telling you do it, and it's a dream that doesn't leave you, it's like someone has done it before, so just keep persisting, and that dream is with you for a reason because you're meant to do that thing, And no matter if you go and become a teacher or you go overseas or you change jobs a billion times, that thing's always going to find you. So it doesn't matter where life takes you. If that thing is always there, you'll always come back home to it. So just trust that. That's what I suppose I want younger people to know.
Yeah, and of course we have people like you and other ethnic artists who come on the show, on the podcast, and that's one of the things they can look up to and see how you got here and how you're still going, and other people out there, So this is the platform I feel like kids can, or anyone else can listen to and say, hey, maybe that this is a blueprint that I can possibly follow or something or rather,
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah. Because we had Priscilla on who said the exact same thing. And one of the biggest things I took back from that, actually, that interview was that not also having ethnics and minorities in front of the camera or on stage, but also behind, like writers and producers and musicians and different kinds. Because that's what's gonna develop the stories, and not just. I mean, that's one of the things that I think we sort of I felt like for a long time, and even now that we're not so strong on, is that our storytelling is weak because we're not going behind the camera and we're not writing. I think recently it started, like Belwa's doing some stuff and Parramatta is doing some stuff as well, the writers, and they're getting together, and the more people we have that, the more we can push on stories.
And I think that's the big shift that's happened in the past, like maybe 5 years or so. Because before there weren't a lot of us, on the screen or on the stages, as you were saying. So that was all great. But still, when it's controlled on the other end by not us, then there's still a little bit of an issue there, right? But I feel now it's completely changed. Like I'd be super excited if I was, like an ethnic girl, migrant girl coming into this current state of things. I mean, the world is just at our fingertips. Like you can be a writer from any background and get something done. Like people will hear you. Like there are opportunities. So, yeah.
What do you think the film and TV community in Australia could be doing more about to help ethnic actors tell their stories?
I always find questions like that difficult because I don't have a strong instinct for an answer for it. Does that make sense? Like I feel like I should have an answer for it, but I genuinely don't. I don't think I do. Like, and this is just an interesting thing to discuss generally. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on it. Like for me, although yes, I'm from an ethnic background, migrant background, kind of working in this industry. For me, like I did say before that I felt quite separated or in between the, Aussie and ethnic communities, but I also still felt like we're all the same and we're all kind of in it together. So I never really had a political kind of sway this way or that way. And I'm not suggesting that that's what your question was leading to, but it's like, I mean, what could the industry do? It could provide more opportunities, more kind of competitions, more initiatives, more whatever. But I tend to come, and sometimes ignorantly, not from a lack perspective, but of abundance. And I think that ties into kind of the way just that I view the world from a spiritual or philosophical level, that there's always opportunity. And even if you're coming into a time when there seemingly isn't a lot of opportunity for you, like the media might say it or other people from your background might say that there is a problem. But I've always believed that if you don't think there's an issue, then there is no issue. And again, that's a very debatable topic because people might be like, Nisrine, you're ignorant. There are issues in the industry. But I've always come from an abundance perspective.
Sure.
And I can't unsee the abundance once I've seen it. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's what we're all about as well. Like we do believe that we're all as one, 100%. And I mean, we speak about it a few times that, once we stop talking about it, the issue isn't there. But at the same time, there are things happening at the moment. There are some issues with storytelling and whatnot, and I think it still needs to be looked at, but as an Australian point of view, not all the time as if we are under attack as ethnics. I don't think we're under. It's an opportunity whenever there is an issue, and I think there are a lot of opportunities. And I mean, you could give as many as I don't want to say freebies, but any sort of government grants or whatever to minority or whatever. But that's also BS. Like why can't we just be in one umbrella as Australians? Why is it just minorities? And I mean, there's also things like every time you get a gig that a casting, they all say, "Oh, we're looking for biopic or looking for ethnic actors, whatever." Well, or minority. Like, I don't really vibe with that.
I think, I suppose everyone's doing their bit. Like there are those that are working behind the scenes from a production level, fantastic. There are those doing their bit by building kind of community groups, great. There are some in the political sphere, blah, blah, blah. I suppose what my contribution has been over the years has been more, I suppose, from a from a craft level. So focusing more on improving young people's actual acting skills and actual writing skills versus the other stuff. And there's a place for all of it. And I think sometimes you just need to know where your contribution is and not feel that you have to be contributing in all of the different camps because you can't, because naturally you feel, like how I was saying before, I'm the Enneagram number 9. Naturally, I'm kind of that peacemaker person, the one that wants to make sure that everyone feels included and involved. So that's kind of where I can do my work, whereas other people might be more of the political advocates, and it's like, yeah, you do your thing. But I think in this day and age, it feels like we have to put out all of the fires.
Yeah.
But you only have like your own hose and your own little bucket of water. So if you just kind of take care of your little fire and everyone does, the same with theirs, then the big fire will be put out, to use a very shitty analogy.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
And so you are involved in the Parramatta community for a while, in the theatre community there. Can you just lay it down, like what you've been doing and everything?
So I started in 2018 an acting school in Parramatta called Parramatta Actors Centre with my brother and sister. Neither of them are actors. They absolutely have massive stage fright and stuff. So they do kind of the back end stuff. And it's been great. When we started, we had one class of, let's be honest, all of my cousins' kids, because that's all we knew at the time. And then over the years, we've got maybe 16 or 17 classes that run per week now. So we have everyone from kindergarten students all the way to adult classes.
Wow.
And it's been so good because there was a massive gap in the market. And we didn't go into it thinking that. We just went into it because my brother and sister and I always wanted to do something together. And one of those things that just magically it happens, and before you know it, it's kind of taken off. It's because it always needed to be there.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, we run it at the Arts and Cultural Exchange in Parramatta, which is right across the road from our high school and primary school that we went to. So that's super special. And over the years we've built great relationships with Riverside Theatres, with the Parramatta Council, with other Western Sydney organisations. It's been great. It's been great. Like the students that come through our doors, sick. They're just the best.
Yeah, even if those kids don't end up doing something in their creative field, but how important is all this sort of as a skill? Like, because you went through university as well through commerce degree.
Yeah.
Like you can use it anywhere.
Yeah.
I did a commerce degree too.
You did?
Yeah,
Where did you go?
I went to University of Canberra.
Okay. Yeah, I was a Sydney uni gal for 1 year.
Yeah. No.
God, econometrics, accounting 1A. My dad's an accountant. Bless him. So he kind of nudged me in the direction of that degree. But yeah, I think I failed accounting 1B.
I think
and
most
I never,
people did.
yeah, huh?
I think most people did.
Accounting 1, yeah.
What was your family's kind of reaction to seeing you become an artist?
It's been gradual. So I think it's not like I left uni and decided that's it, I'm going to go and pursue this acting thing. It was just I'd pepper in my acting training and acting experiences while studying this degree or while kind of working in this job. And I think that's what I found over the years, that I never had to give one of them up, that I can do all of it and that's okay. And I suppose that's what I want young people to know as well, that you don't have to be an actor and just an actor. It's actually probably really cool if you can do other things as well that will kind of support that. But my parents, my dad doesn't really say much, but when he's seen me do important stuff that he deems kind of, oh, wow, this is good, she's made it. Like when I did my first TV show, or when I, produced a theatre festival and a lot of people were there, he's like, wow, this is actually good. You're doing good, yeah? Wow, this is actually good. So for him, that's how he saw success. It was kind of how many audience members would come to a show, be like, wow, this is a big show. This is good. Wow, you're on Channel 9. Wow, Channel 9's a good program. It's a good channel. Great, yeah, you're on Channel 9. Good. Yeah.
Sounds like my dad.
Yeah.
Did any of them, did any of your family get to see Breathing Corpses?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. My dad didn't. I only kind of recommend certain things for him to come and watch.
Sure.
Mum did, and bless her, it was quite a violent play, as you know. You said you watched it.
Yeah.
She had to close her eyes for a majority of it.
Yeah.
And I had friends that came along that were traumatized and would have dreams of me because it was quite
Dreams
violent.
of you? Wow.
Yeah, so they'd have, I'd appear in their dream that night in the scenario, and they just wanted to look after me and protect me.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like, we know you were playing a character, but we know that that's not you, but we just, felt really bad for what your character had to go through.
Yeah.
It was intense.
It was very intense. It was, I've seen a lot of plays this year.
Yeah.
That one was one of the ones that honestly really stand out to me as like, I'm really glad I came and saw it.
Oh, that's
like,
great.
It was a really great production.
Yeah.
How did you, we talked a little bit about this before the podcast, but I'd love to ask about how do you manage a character like that who's clearly not a harmonious peacemaker?
Yeah, she's definitely not an Enneagram number 9. So there's stuff you do before it. So we had an intimacy coach. So they were there to make sure that all the boundaries were in place. And then there's stuff you do during it. So before and after the show, which I call like actor hygiene. So I had this coffee body scrub, and every night I'd come home from the show and I'd have a shower and scrub myself with this body scrub. And every time I'd rub the coffee scrub on me, I'd smell the coffee and I'm like, okay, Nisrine's back. So that was that. And then, like I was saying before, at the end, closing night, Monica Say is one of the other actresses who's also a part-time hairdresser, cut all my hair off.
All of your hair off?
All of it.
Well, not all of it. Like, it's still here. But no, she cut it into a bob. So we took out, because the character hair was a very big thing for the character. So we chopped that off, and that felt like the character was lifted off me. But in saying all of that, there was still residual stuff that stayed with me for a couple of weeks. But I think because I'm quite self-aware, I was able to like journal my way out of it. I was able to speak to my therapist or whatever about it. Like, I had ways of dealing with it. But you can't underestimate how much the way that you empathize with the character, it does stick to you, especially if you care a lot about the character. If you're playing them kind of superficially and you're there just to kind of perform, then that's one thing. But if you're really invested in the character and you've, done your work on their psychology and all of that, that gets in your blood for sure.
I still think that even if you like just perform it as you were saying before, I think a little bit does stick to you. Like a little bit of like emotional change in whatever you do ends up sticking with you some way or form.
Of course.
Yeah. Because I did this thing for a TAFE social counselling students. Like you would go and become the actual the patient.
Oh yeah.
And then I did one, and that like I guess I was performing, but whatever it was, but it did stick to me for a little bit because like this person went through a shit ton, and
it's all energy, isn't it?
It's all
like
energy,
the energy has to go somewhere. Yeah.
And what projects do you have coming up?
What do I have? So I've put in funding recently for a one-woman show that I want to do next year.
Amazing.
That I'm definitely going to perform. So I'm hoping that funding comes through. If not, the show's still going to go on. And that's about a woman in her late 30s dealing with fertility issues and that age-old question of, can a woman have a career and then also have a family?
Yeah, wow.
So yeah, that's what I'm currently working on. And then what else? I've just wrapped a couple of shows that I was directing, some emerging writers, which was so fun at KXT and at where was the other one? Oh my God. Somewhere I've completely forgotten. But yeah. And yeah, that's it.
And your one-woman show, is this the first time it's not the first time you've written, or?
So I've written for screen. So Here Out West, I was one of the writers on that. And then a short film, Apricot as well. A stage play. I did a stage play for, do you guys remember Crash Test Drama?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
So I wrote a play like 10 or 12 years ago for that called Must Be the Dairy.
Oh, great.
And I won People's Choice for that play. That was a short little.
Oh, excellent.
But I've not written I haven't written a stage play since. This will be the first thing. Yeah.
Just I want to expand on the funding. Like, how do you go about getting something funded? Like something like what you're trying to do, which is a one woman play.
So this one is with Create New South Wales. So it's a quick turnaround funding. You know the ones how they give those little mini ones?
Quick response grant.
Those ones. Yeah. So it was that. So we'll see what the outcome is in a couple of weeks. But typically the projects I've been on before that have had funding, I've had producers who've taken care of all of that. Like that's not really my strong suit. The whole executive producing stuff and finding the funds. I'm more of the creative side of things. Yeah.
Well, tell us about the one-woman show. What made you kind of think about it, and what inspired you?
Like if I look at who I look up to, like Mindy Kaling, for example, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, Michaela Cole. So all of these women who have written these awesome dramedies, but they've all stemmed from plays. So they were all one-woman shows at one point. And I just love performing on stage. And I think it's a great place to really explore and discover a character before you turn it into something for screen. So I pitched this originally as being a web series or a TV show, but then I thought about it and I thought, you know what, if I just zoom in just a little bit and just make it a one-woman show, I can really develop the character, give her a lot of weight, and then after that, we'll see. My goal is that it kind of plays here and maybe I can tour it in the fringe festivals or something, and then from that pick up a nice little community, and then from that take that to Screen Australia and be like, fund me now, please. I think
exactly.
That's smart move.
I think that's absolutely the way to go, because then you've got an audience.
That's it.
You've proven that you've done it without having to ask anybody for a huge budget, which they're terrified of risk. So you're kind of coming to them going, hey, look, I've got an inbuilt audience.
Yes.
People have said they've liked it. You know, you'd be silly not to.
Yeah. And you know what? And that's what stuffed me up last time for the Screen Oz application, was that I didn't know the audience questions that are in a lot of those grants. There's questions about who is your audience and how do you plan to reach them. I'm like, oh yeah, we'll make a little YouTube channel and we can pop it on there. Or, oh yeah, I'll share it around my Instagram. And it's like, that's wonderful, Nisrine, but 500 people are going to watch your show. Like, is that it?
Yeah.
So, and back to what we were talking about before, kind of we started today, is this idea of audience is just super, super important. And I think a lot of creatives today, we have so much to say.
Yep.
We have so much we want to express, so much creativity, but at the end of the day, we are in service to an audience.
Yes.
Like, we are in service to an audience. If you have something you want to say, write a blog. But if you have something you want to say that's going to impact people, then you have to consider them from the beginning of the creation process. Like, you have to, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And is that is that what happened with Here Out West?
Audience-wise, you mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. See, Here Out West just seems like a massive blur, like the way it started. We were 8 writers who were selected to come and write on this thing that even the producers didn't know what it was. We thought it was going to be a web series or something. And then it just developed over time into a feature film. I don't know, what the audience... what the producers, what their angle was with the audience or whatever, but I think obviously Western Sydney we had to mobilise Western Sydney and get those, like get Western Sydney on board. And then after that, it was appealing to, just Sydney generally, and then nationally and internationally. So...
And how did you feel when it came out? Is that what you wanted? Is that how it...
well, the first time when the writers went to see the cut, like the first cut, we were super, super just blown away by the quality of it, because we thought we were making this cutesy little budget indie little film thing. And we watched it and went, oh my God, this could play at international film festivals. This is like a really well-made film. And I mean, Australia agrees, because now we've got that nomination for Best Film at the ACTA Awards, which is like massive. So we saw like the little thumbnail on the ACTA, their Instagram page. And so it's like our film is nominated next to Elvis next to 3,000 Years of Longing? Is that the right title?
I can't remember.
Yeah. Tilda Swinton and Idris Elba's film.
Yeah.
So but that was a long time in the making. Like, it was 4 years ago we started that project.
Wow.
Yeah, I saw that when they first showed on it was SBS.
Oh, you saw it on ABC?
ABC, sorry. Yeah. And,
did you like it?
I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it, the fact that I was seeing stories like that on TV, and it sort of paid homage to a lot of our parents and our background, and a lot of our parents who worked really hard and who we are now, you know. It sort of reminded me of the second episode from what's that comedian? The American comedian Hussein. He did what was that show? Master of None.
Oh yes, I know exactly which episode.
Oh,
with their fathers.
With their fathers.
Yeah,
and he was speaking to his dad.
Yes.
And it was like sort of like where does that thought or where does that thing come from?
Yeah. And it was those two boys, because it was him and his best friend character. They were kind of honouring the journey of their fathers, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I saw that and that long time. Then I saw Here at West, and it sort of reminded me of all that thing, the relationship with the parents and all that things, and
Yeah.
It was great. Yeah. And I hope more stuff like that comes. And I guess we can all resonate to it because like we all, I guess, live in Sydney and even in Melbourne, same sort of stories, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Everywhere, even in London, even in New York, like it's those migrant communities, right? Like it's the same stories.
Yeah, it's like when Benedict like Beckham came out back in the day.
Yeah.
And that resonated through all the ethnics in England and stuff, and the girls who wanted to play different sports,
Yeah,
then want to become
exactly.
accountants, they'll go to university and whatever, and that's sort of a breakout for them. But yeah. And so so it's in actors awards, and I know you put that on Instagram today or yesterday.
I can't remember. I think I've been posting about
You're
it.
really active on Instagram, aren't you?
You know what? I was on Instagram for years and years and years. And then about 6 months ago, I was going through this massive, like, I need to disconnect from the world. And what does any of it mean? And I had a writing deadline because I'm writing a novel as well. So I wanted to get like 30,000 words done. And I'm like, I can't if I'm surrounded by all of this noise. So I deleted my Instagram, like not just deactivated it, like deleted.
Wow.
It went away forever and ever. Anyway, then I got a little bit, I hit my deadlines, which were great, like my writing milestones. And then I just kind of felt super lonely. Like it's weird. Went through massive withdrawals.
Wow.
You need to try and get off social media for honestly longer than a week, for maybe 2 or 3 months, and see the type of withdrawal effects it has on you. Like there were times where I'd be sitting on a Saturday night feeling super lonely, and I'm like, because I wasn't out, and typically if I wasn't out, I'd be on my phone on Instagram, and so there'd be this illusion that I was surrounded by people, right? Because I'd be watching people's stories. But when you don't have that to go through and you're sitting at home on a Saturday night, it's like, fuck, do I have friends? Like it was massive, but I had to work through that. And then I went back on it because I just love people and socializing.
Yeah.
But yes, so I'm like, if you're going to be on social media, I think you have to be active on it. To be voyeuristic and hang in the background of it, I don't think you're using the technology for how it was intended to be used. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm a massive lurker.
Oh,
I'm
you're
a massive lurker.
So you don't post, you watch.
I don't really post. I don't really like things. I look at people's stuff and I'm like, I like that, and then I won't press
You
the
won't
like
press,
button.
right.
I'm a lurker.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of in the middle, to be honest. And recently I've sort of understood the power of social media, because so when we started this actual podcast and we were posting on Instagram, and then my partner, she actually, which we have to thank her for, which she changed the sort of formatting of and made it look nice, which you can see that it's changed, put our following higher.
Yeah, great.
Just that change. That's crazy. It's insane. Not like, it's weird because I don't really, I don't want to say that, but I don't really care who follows us, but I also care if it's touched people.
Yeah.
And following doesn't necessarily mean it's touched people. People can just like.
Yeah.
It's when like if I meet someone and go on the show, oh man, I listened to that podcast, that episode, and that she helped me or he helped me or whatever, you know. That's more important to me than the following stuff.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know, you're right. Getting off social media is so hard. It's so difficult on the phone all the time. And sometimes, you know, I know you went through withdrawals, and I'm sure I would go through withdrawals within a week.
Oh, yeah.
I can see myself going through withdrawals because now I'm more on the phone now because like I'm getting messages and stuff, and I want to respond to all the people who follow us, and I want to also like make sure people are heard as well. But then that also takes over my mind a little bit. So yeah, I got to find ways of not it use me. I got to use it. You know. So
I read this book recently called Essentialism, and I forget who wrote it, but you guys, I'll send you a link to it after. But it's this whole idea of if you don't set the boundaries, or if you don't dictate your boundaries, someone else will. So it's this idea of be on the social media, know what the boundaries are, set in timers, be active between certain times and certain times. You make the rules for your social media. And this is just for all business decisions. You dictate how you want to spend your time, because if you don't, as we see, like it completely can just suck you in and take over. But yeah, you just have to put your business hat on, I suppose, and just You know, like I'm not answering messages on weekends. I shut shop at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
You know, that sort of stuff that you can do if you work for a business. But when you're kind of self-employed or you're an entrepreneur, the onus is on you to kind of dictate your time and to set your boundaries.
Yeah, and also like things have changed. Like when growing up in the 90s and stuff, and would watch TV all the time. Like I know that I used to watch TV all the time. I'll get up like 7 o'clock to 6:30 in the morning to watch Cartoon Connection. Or
Oh
something.
my God, aggro.
Aggro's
I love the 90s.
Poor old aggro. Used to watch that, and my dad would walk in, and he'll get me off the couch, and he'd watch the news, and then that's it.
Yeah.
And then like grew up. Like I would know what time it is just by knowing what shows on TV.
So true.
Right? Like and I think that's changed now. And now it's on the phone. It's a similar thing but different.
Yeah,
thing.
it is.
Yeah.
That's why I think when people bag social media or, you know, oh, kids these days are growing up distracted and blah, blah, blah. This has been part of human nature for all of eternity. It's just, it looks different now. That's it. It's just taking a different form. But this idea of like young people being distracted by stuff, it's not a new thing that we've invented, you know? So that can give us some hope, I think, if we kind of zoom out and look at it from a bigger picture perspective.
I do still feel that there is still a distraction. Like I see kids like their creative level isn't as high. They're very good copy people.
Yeah, imitators.
Imitators.
Yeah, that's right.
It's very good imitating other people. Very good. But we need to be creating different things. And unfortunately, you know, sometimes to be creative, you got to be lonely. Sometimes, and sometimes you got to be in solitude. Sometimes you got to do things which is not the same as other people. And unfortunately, a lot of the like psychological issues a lot of us have is because we're trying to see this thing on Instagram and Facebook or whatever it is. Like, man, I got to be like that, or some. You know, you're comparing. Even though we all constantly say, "Hey, don't compare yourself to other people. Don't do this. Don't do that." But you yourself are doing it as well.
Yeah.
You know, and it's difficult, and that's why a lot of the great novels have already been written, right? And
So what is that saying, that there aren't going to be other ones?
I'm sure there will be.
Yeah.
I'm not saying there won't be. I'm just saying that I think we have to just find places where we're not always going to be surrounded by other people's influences.
Yeah, because I think ultimately creativity has to come from a place of ease and relaxation and silence and stillness. But because young people these days, there's just noise. That's all it is. If you don't want to create, then sure, live in a noisy world. But if you want to create, you have to find that stillness, and that means perhaps getting off social media sometimes, not listening to authority all the time, not kind of like just stopping and asking yourself, what do I believe? Like even when it comes to stuff with eating, like how does anyone know what to eat when there are a billion people around them that tell them this diet, that diet, this way of training, that way of training? How do people know how to be in relationships anymore where it's this coach tells you this dating app tells you this? Like no one knows how to think for themselves. Like this is a scary thing. So this is why creativity probably is at risk, because no one is tapping into their authenticity, their authentic voice.
And there's so many more there's so many relationship coaches out there, and to be honest, there isn't an answer to every single question. There isn't an answer.
No.
People, you are not God. People are not gods. You don't know the answers to life. The only way you're going to find answers is talking to people, experiencing things, sitting in a constant state for a while, and see how it goes. Like if you do want to try a diet, or if you want to try reading a certain book, if you want to try a career, go into it. And it's never going to be easy. You only know the true effects of it after you go through its hardship. Like when you go to university, like for example, a lot of people want to become actors, right? If you go to theatre school, there's going to be subjects that you're not going to like, 100%. Like they don't want to learn about history, but that is important. You learn history and learn the voice, and my voice is shit, this, that, the other. You got to go through every single day, do a voice warm up. That is a hardship. You got to get through it. And once you get through it, you find answers later on for yourself. But that doesn't necessarily mean that your answers and my answer, your answer is going to be exactly the same, right? I can tell you, hey, listen, so I did this great voice stuff. Maybe you should try it out, see if it works for you. It may work, may not work, you know? But you got to try it out as well. So I think being an individual and learning from each other is a fantastic tool, rather than just constantly being stimulated by influences and all this. Like this is thousands and thousands. Where did they all come from? Where did 1,000 philosophers come from? Like where did they all come from?
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense. You know, so sometimes I feel like we need to step back a little bit.
And like you said, like it's okay to have access to all of that stuff because people can provide you with really valuable insights. But ultimately there is, not to get too spiritual, there's like an inner guidance in you that knows the answer, but no one stops for long enough to ask, you know? And we just have to do that. Like just stop, be silent and still.
Yeah. So while we're on this sort of rant, you said something to me yesterday about my Instagram post.
Yeah, the Ricky Gervais thing?
Yeah, tell me.
Right, remind me what that was. I know what it is, but just to...
it was about like how important are you, how arrogant are you that someone can't disagree with you.
Yeah. You know that phrase, beauty is in the eye of the beholder? There's another phrase that I think I made it up. I don't know, or if I got it from somewhere. Being offended is in the eye of the offender. Of the offendee. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Something is only offensive if you're offended by it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Like do you know how much energy it takes to be offended by something? Like even me now talking about being offended, I feel it it takes so much energy.
Yeah.
We're fighting battles that we don't need to fight. And people don't understand, like, that shit stays in your body. Like being offended or being upset or being angry or being outraged, like that stays in your body. That leads to diseases. And I'm sorry, but I want to like live till I'm 100 billion years old if I can. Like I don't have time for that shit to enter my body. So in any given situation, and this is where I think like the Stoics, I really resonate with a lot of the Stoic philosophies. It's like there is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Is that Shakespeare? I don't know if that's the Stoics or Shakespeare.
That's fantastic.
But it's like a thing is just a thing. A thing is just a thing. You're offended by it or you're not. You can choose A or you can choose B.
Yeah.
And a lot of people will probably watch this and go, no, well, some things are just atrocities and are bad. Well, I really would argue that.
Yeah.
I would argue that. So, yeah, that's why it resonated with me. Even talking about it now, I feel like I'm getting like, I just feel so strongly about it because we suffer so much and you don't have to. You can decide in a second that thing is not going to bug you.
Yeah.
You can just change the channel.
You can just change the channel. Yeah, exactly.
Or go next. Yeah. But there are not that many creatives out there who would speak like you, mind you. Because they're affected by the pressures of not getting the next job, or they're affected that if you say something you might get cancelled or some sort. And oh, man, that's who has this power? Like, where is this coming from, right? And I'm also for that. Like, I'm also for the fact that if you don't like to watch something, don't watch it. You know, like I can appreciate certain things that I don't have to watch it, right? Like I'm not a huge watcher of musical theatre, but I do appreciate it, but I don't watch it, right? Or I don't watch scary films because I don't, you know, one of those things. I don't watch certain type of comedy, you know, like I mean, I think everyone goes to different stages of what they find funny and what they don't find funny, you know, but you can't sit back and go, hey, stuff you sell this thing, but you bought the ticket. Why buy the ticket? Yeah. Right? And you can't turn back. And I mean, James does a bit of improv and stand up and other people in his friend circle, in our friend circle, we have stand-up comedians and improv specialists and whatnot. And it's incredibly hard work. And they have to go from clubs to clubs to try material and see if it works and what their crowd is. You know, like I went to a stand-up out west in Penrith. Completely different. Like no PC whatsoever. Like whatsoever. Like there was racial slurs, there was everything, whatever. And like that's the thing. I don't have to like be there. I can just walk out. You know. So
it's a very, very tricky time. Like I know so many creatives who are just super scared of saying the wrong thing, and I think ultimately if you're attached to the idea of people accepting you or people liking you, or you rely on other people to make your dreams come true, or you rely on other people to whatever, then I can see why it would be very super scary. But if you're someone who kind of just isn't afraid of any of that, then it's easier to speak up, or not even speak up, like to just not say anything at all, or to have a different view, or I don't know. It's so just.
We're just afraid
I'm
to
too
lose.
old. I'm just not too old, but I'm like, no.
We're too afraid to speak out, and we're too afraid to lose jobs. We're too afraid. You shouldn't be afraid. Like, it's okay to have a different opinion. My God. Why is it wrong to have a different opinion on things? And then discuss why you have that opinion.
Yeah, correct.
And if you don't have, and you can still be friends with people who have separate opinions. Like I have mates who have completely different opinions, but we get along, right? You don't have to fight every single battle.
Yeah, you don't have to. Or just rise above the debate and talk about the larger issue. So, for example, there's he's passed away now. I think he died in like the 80s or something. J. Krishnamurti, who would speak a lot about, critical thinking and stuff like that. So, for example, if someone came to him with an issue, let's say about marriage, like they'd come and complain about their husband or about their wife or something, he'd be like, okay, let's talk about marriage as a concept. So he'd rise above the specific issue, he'd hover above it, and he'd talk about that as a concept. So now you weren't debating each other's experiences, you were debating the topic. Or someone came and was asking a question about religion. It's like, okay, let's talk. What is religion? They're the conversations I love having. That's why sometimes I have to kind of be very careful when, friends come to me with issues about like the daily happenings of their life or whatever, because I have to remind myself to be really empathetic and understanding. But really what I want to do is rise above that discussion and talk about the institute of marriage just as a concept, or to talk about sexuality as a concept, or, like about that higher level stuff, because all of that other talk just keeps us down kind of in the lower echelons. Is that a word? That's a word, isn't it?
It can be now.
Like it kind of like just, I don't know, like the other conversation, it rises us up, and it makes it more of a universal discussion. I don't know.
No, I completely agree. Those small things are just, even if you resolve them, like what's the
then what?
ongoing benefit? But if there's some sort of movement forward when you're talking about these larger things, that's progress.
Yeah.
And that's growing communication and relationships between people far more than these little, you said this, she said that kind of thing.
That's a very gossip level.
Yeah.
Very gossip level. And once you start talking about larger projects and larger discussions that involve people, not disqualify people. That's the most important thing. And I think for a long time, and there's one of the things I've been really upset about is about Sydney's circle, with creative circles, is we constantly think about the smaller things. And I know people are in pain. I haven't been in pain, and a lot of other people have been in pain, but we have to find bigger things to talk about. And there are the largest things to people talk about, like the issue in Iran right now. It's a huge thing to talk about. It's, gender politics isn't important right now. At the moment, is this thing or other thing. People are dying in this world. People have famine. People have issues out there. Right? We're in a really great society that we can actually think about sexual issues and whatever gender issues, gender politics. We're grateful for that. Right, so I think that we should. Look, I don't know. I want to think about larger things in life.
I suppose it comes back to what we were talking about earlier, with everyone just staying in their lane and staying true to what motivates them and what interests them. There are people who love having the on the ground kind of discussions about the day-to-day, and that's great. There are people who like having the larger, more philosophical discussions. That's great. I want to live in a world where anyone can be on any of those levels and enjoy it.
Yes.
Because there are some people who don't like having the bigger philosophical stuff. They want to talk about the day-to-day stuff, and that's totally fine, and then vice versa. It's just stay true to just stay in your lane. Do you, boo. Just stay true to you. And in your body, if you're kind of joining a discussion, because you really feel like, you care about it, or you're just doing it to kind of appease people, in your body.
Or
but
get
what we were
network.
saying,
Or get network, or get a job.
Yeah, exactly.
Or,
Exactly. So you just,
Yeah, I think Absolutely, being authentic to who you
It's
are.
just that.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful note to end on.
Thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you.
on.
It was fine. I could talk for hours with you.
We could talk for longer, but we'd love to have you on again in the future after more projects come up and we can discuss it, and hopefully you can come to some of your shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chookas on your one woman show.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
Chookas on the funding.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, and we'll put some of the info on Instagram.
Cool.
We'll stay connected
Yeah. Awesome.
as always.
Thanks, guys. It was fun.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.
Yeah, we'll
as
see you
usual.
next time.
Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye.